Want to know how to make a cool cartoon-style face render? Let's get started. First, we need to create 8 textures that represent the shading of the face. It is important to note that each subsequent texture fully contains the previous one. Next, we will use Substance Designer to create SDF textures. First, we need to set the color mode of each texture to grayscale. Then, we use the Blend node to calculate the difference between the two textures. Next comes the most critical node, Non-Uniform Blur Grayscale. This node helps us create smooth and beautiful gradient values. Set the 2 parameters below to their maximum values. Repeat the previous steps. Finally, we combine them together. Since there are 7 textures, we need to set the opacity to 1/7, which is 0.143. We've got a really nice SDF texture, and next we can export it to use in Unreal Engine. In Unreal Engine, set compression settings to masks. It's super important for accurate calculations. Let's test the SDF texture to see if it's working correctly. Great! In many projects, SDF is often used directly as a shadow map. But I wanted to easily work with PBR, so let me show you a new method, converting SDF to a normal map. This works with my toon shader. First, I'll enable custom depth and set the stencil to 16. You can find more details about this in the documentation. Back to the material, this texture goes from 0 to 1 from left to right. But if we want to use it to represent normals, we need to convert it to -1 to 1, where -1 is left and 1 is right. We can see in this model that 1, 0, 0 represents the right direction, and 0, 1, 0 represents the forward direction. The coordinates are in local space. We need to convert them to tangent space. you might notice they only seem to work correctly in one direction. That's why we need to determine the correct shading direction based on the lighting and the model's orientation. I use the dot product of the light direction and the right direction to determine their angle. If it's greater than 0, the directions are the same. If it's less than 0, they're opposite. If the directions are opposite, we need to flip the UVs of the texture. At the same time, the right direction also needs to be reversed. Great, they're working perfectly now. Let's do a quick comparison. On the left is the unprocessed normal map. The normals processed through the SDF are noticeably cleaner. But if we enable shadows, the difference between the two doesn't seem that significant. With an additional light, the result on the right looks much better again. This gave me an idea. We can add an emissive color to the face. Great. With the shadows enabled, the face still has clean, sharp shadows. By the way, if you want to apply this effect to a skeletal mesh, you'll need to pass the forward and right directions to the material using blueprints. Alright, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial.